That sounds good. The throttle adjustment should be just about right. But there's only one way to find out for sure. I've been working on this plane for 2 years. That's all my weekends and vacation time. But when I take her into the air, I know it's been worth every minute I put into it. I'd say it isn't bad for a guy who's the pilot, the mechanic, and the manufacturer, too.
When you hear a man like Harry Turner talking about the little plane he's built himself, or about the big ones he works on as an aviation mechanic, you know you have met a craftsman. Here at Miami International Airport, one of the nation's busiest centers for air travel, Harry's job is line maintenance. Since this aircraft landed 6 hours ago, he has removed the fuel control on number 2 engine, installed and tested a new fuel control assembly. The aircraft will go back into service within the hour, its repair completed. To serve the tens of thousands of air travelers who pass through Miami every day, the aircraft must come and go on schedule, quickly, reliably.
And those schedules mean 24-hour maintenance. In docks, in hangars, or on the line, even when that Florida sun isn't shining. For this kind of work, you need a good background of experience. And I found out 10 years ago that being certified as an aviation mechanic was only the beginning. Working 3 years in the airline's overhaul shop helped me to learn the basic aircraft systems: electrical, hydraulic, power plant, and the rest. Even now, I find myself going back to school from time to learn the latest developments in this constantly changing field of aircraft maintenance. And through these years, I found out something more than how to do the job. The aviation mechanic learns that every repair he makes has got to be right. He's got to have a sense of responsibility.
Responsibility. It's because Harry has proved consistently responsible that his airline has chosen him for a post of special trust. This aircraft will be released for service only after his approval as the mechanic responsible for its maintenance. Harry is investigating a pilot's report of high cylinder head temperatures on this engine. He suspects the cowl flap adjustment. The flap still works, but it is not within the normal tolerances to maintain a safe engine operating temperature. When a maintenance problem affects the airline schedule, a decision must be made, and quickly. Harry draws on the accumulated experience of the line maintenance crew, but the final recommendation must remain in his hands.
As a matter of fact, this plane was held back from service on my recommendation. The mechanic's responsibilities are bigger today. They've grown with the aircraft he works on. I also specialize in jet power plant maintenance, and I can testify to the complexity of these big engines. Yet the aviation mechanic has direct responsibility for keeping them in top condition. When called upon, he must be able to install a complete new engine on the aircraft, rig the controls, and make all the adjustments.
This landing gear retraction test is a study in the precise movement of thousands of pounds of metal and rubber. The mechanic must check the sequence of many separate events in the cycle of retraction. the aviation mechanic, trained to high standards, works with skill and assurance amid the complexity of modern aircraft maintenance. And there are thousands of them. Their knowledge and ability has ensured the safety and progress of the world's largest civil air fleet.
That's a model of the first plane I ever worked on, back in 1926. It's hard to believe. That was almost 40 years ago. Been a lot of changes since then. I never thought I'd end up sitting behind a desk. Of course, I've been working for 20 years to build up this business, so I really shouldn't complain. Operating an aircraft sales and repair station is still right in the center of aviation. And delivery of a new aircraft can be just as exciting as it ever was. One thing for which I'm thankful, in 40 years, the airplanes may have changed a lot, but the people are still the same. I've always enjoyed talking aviation. I guess that's how I got into this part of the business. This customer's accepting delivery on a new plane, and it's a beauty. We installed a radio and instruments to fit his requirements. Now she's just about ready to go. You know, if anybody told me, even a few years back, that a salesman would buy a plane like this to cover his territory, I wouldn't have believed him. This model is faster than the B-17 bomber we had in World War II. It's got a 1,300-mile cruising range, navigation equipment that just wasn't available to the private pilot until recently. Yes, sir. Lots of changes.
And they were changes that George West had a hand in, most of them, ever since he was a young aviation mechanic back in the 20s. Then, mechanics were the unglamorous side of aviation. Grease monkeys, they were called. But this didn't make too much difference to a man like George West. He knew he was part of the amazing progress that was taking place in the skies during those years. Planes became bigger and more complex.
And that meant they've become tougher to work on. Take a whole new area in aviation, like maintenance of the electronic navigational aids. The aviation mechanic has to know more to service these aircraft today. You hear a lot of talk about the decline in craftsmanship, but frankly, I haven't seen any of it. The work these boys of mine do is equal to anything we used to turn out in the old days. And if they've got labor-saving tools to make it easier, well, that's their good luck. The aviation mechanic still has to know how to do fine work with fabric and wood. This job of recovering requires meticulous skill. But working on the modern aircraft can be even tougher. The mechanic conducting an engine compression check has to know the use of specialized tools and test equipment. He's guided in his work by an extensive checklist.
What doesn't change from one plane to another, from one job to another, is the aviation mechanic's responsibility. He still holds the lives of the pilot and the passengers in his hands. And when he has completed an inspection or a repair, he still signs his name to certify that he has made this craft airworthy in the best sense of the word.
ready to go. And I know he has lots of good flying ahead in that new airplane. He can rely on us to take good care of it. I happen to think that the best part of aviation is what happens right here on the ground. I've seen some exciting things in the past 40 years, but these boys who are starting out now will see aviation grow just as far and just as fast. And they'll be with it every step of the way. I only hope they enjoy it as much as I have.
To my way of thinking, vertical takeoff and landing, VTOL, is the biggest thing that's happened to aviation in the past 10 years. This is a new type with 2 jet engines and a fixed wing. It can hover and creep backward, and it can even turn around in midair. Yet the same plane can reach speeds of more than 500 miles an hour.
Don Vickers is studying to be an aviation mechanic at the Academy of Aeronautics within sight and sound of LaGuardia Airport in New York City. He's one of the hundreds of students at the Academy who are learning the crafts and skills of the aviation mechanic and other subjects as well.
I never expected somehow that a physics course would be part of an aviation mechanics training, but I soon found out just how much it belongs. This balance has a lot of applications in the equipment I'll be working with every day on the job. The same goes for the other courses in mathematics and English composition. They all belong in the kind of training we get here at the Academy.
For Don and the other students, test panels offer an introduction to the complex systems of the modern-day aircraft. With these practical applications, learning gains in substance. Working with power plants, the student learns the techniques of close tolerance measurement essential to his training as a craftsman. In the aerospace field, there are many jobs that weren't even dreamed of a few years ago. Working on rocket propulsion systems and the vehicles for space exploration. They offer an entirely different scope to the mechanic's ambitions. His ability to make machines work is the foundation of our achievements in space.
True, an aviation mechanics training today can lead to many different jobs. I'm impressed with the all-around competence of the mechanics I've met. Men like my instructors at the school. As far as my future career is concerned, I'd like to be known as a good aviation mechanic.
Don will soon join the ranks of 80,000 airframe and power plant specialists who, as their certificates read, have been found to be properly qualified to exercise the privileges of a mechanic. They are the men who keep America's civil air fleet on the move. For the aviation mechanic, each of the tasks he performs carries an importance that can never become routine. Equally with the pilot and his crew, in the aviation mechanic's capable hands rests the safety of the millions of Americans who fly each year. Harry and his fellow mechanics, whether they serve the airline or the private pilot, know and cherish this responsibility. They have responded to the high demands of their calling. In this realm of flight, they are a new breed, strong and resourceful. This is the aviation mechanic.